Welcome everyone again to another reading of Lord Meher, and we are up to 1940 on page 2100, and we'll begin the reading with Eva. Go ahead, please.
Seclusion. Scylla's birthday was celebrated on 20 April 1940 with fresh mango ice cream, this time without garlic chutney. Irene and Elizabeth became ill for a few days and were kept under treatment. Betty, do you mind making the print a little bigger? I tried, but it reverts back.
All right, let's see if I can do that. It's not. All right.
Okay. Oh, this is good. Thank you. Besides an abundance of mangoes, Mboli had plenty of poisonous snakes, whose bites were said to mean certain death. Baba ordered all not to move about in the dark without a lamp. Once Kitty and Nadine forgot their lanterns, and the next day, Baba took them to task, asking, "Why did you break my order? Do you think I'm a fool?" Nadine reasoned, "But had a snake bitten us, we would have died in your presence." "How would that have benefited you?" Baba asked. "We would have merged in your ocean. Instead of drowning, you would have to be carried to the shore. Merging in the ocean is not for those who disobey. They are tossed up on the beach like an old piece of dried driftwood, and there they die. What gain is there in such a death?" With me, Baba concluded, one has to live while dying so that you can live eternally after dying such a death. Do you follow? Nadine nodded that she did. Baba left Mboli at 2 p.m. on the 20th and traveled to Belgaum. They arrived 3 hours later and stayed in a bungalow 3 miles from the city, which belonged to the Maharani of Savartwadi. Don drove Elizabeth's car with Elizabeth and Baba in the front seat, as she was still unwell. In Belgaum, too, Haldankar had made all of their arrangements, and Indu and Sushla continued to do the cooking. On the 22nd, Baba took the women to see the spot chosen for establishing Baba's center in Belgaum, and the Maharini of Savatwadi again came to see him. The next morning, Baba left at 5 a.m. for Sakarpa, where he arrived at noon. In Sakarpa, he received a letter from Belgaum informing him that another piece of property had been donated to him to use for his center. Narina, Elizabeth, and Don drove back to Belgaum to inspect the land on the afternoon of 24 April and returned the next day. During the whole tour, Narina remained occupied, discussing with Baba the various plans for establishing a large center in India. On the early morning of the 26th, Baba and the women left Sakarpa without taking tea and drove to Chiplun, where a relative of Kali Mama had arranged for their breakfast at his house. After taking refreshments, they left and arrived in Mahabaleshwar at 6 p.m, where they checked into the Granville Hotel. The next day, Baba took them to the high lookout points of Wilson and Bombay Points and Arthur's Seat. On Sunday morning, 28 April 1940, they left for Panchgani. There, they stayed in the Buena Vista Hotel. At 4 p.m., the women walked with Baba to his cave at Tiger Valley and sat inside the cave with him for a few minutes. Savak Kotwal and his family were staying in Panchgani by Baba's orders, and Baba instructed them to go to Meherabad and await his arrival. Leaving Panchgani on the morning of the 29th, Baba arrived in Ahmednagar at 1 in the afternoon, where he rested with all at Akbar Press. The Satha and Damania families again met Baba after a long absence and felt joyous to be in his presence once more. Chanji had arrived at Meherabad from Bombay earlier the same day and joined them. After each of the women had taken a bath and eaten lunch, Baba and the group left Ahmednagar and drove to Happy Valley, arriving at 6:30 that evening. The women's group was to remain in the Dak bungalow in Happy Valley for 4 days. The 8 men with Baba had to sleep in a tent meant for 3, pitched on the bare ground. As Chanji recorded, their time in Happy Valley proved a most unhappy time for them. One of Meher Baba's earliest disciples, Bua Saheb, was living in Pune at the time. On Wednesday, 1 May 1940, he was involved in a fatal pre-dawn accident while riding a motorcycle. He was on his way to his toddy plantations. A car shot out of a side street and struck him. He was thrown over his motorcycle and died instantaneously on the street from a brain concussion. He was 48 years old. Baba came to Kushru quarters with Don that morning. They were on their way to Meherabad when Sarosh came running with the news after receiving Adi Jr.'s phone call from Pune. On being told about Bua Saheb, Baba showed no emotion and reminded them of what he had stated before leaving Bangalore. Before the end of the war, 2 of my dearest disciples will die, a male and a female, or both males. Who will be the second? He asked rhetorically. Don, Sarosh, Chanji, and Baidu, who had recently returned from Bangalore, went by car that afternoon to Pune to attend Bua Saheb's funeral. Don was then sent to Bangalore to deliver the news and repeat Baba's message that there was still one more, man or woman, to die. And footnote.
Oh, sorry. Don was also ordered to resume his duties at a Bangalore hospital to gain further surgical experience.
According to Baba's wish, the following circular was issued to his followers. In memory of the deep spiritual connection of Bua Saheb with Baba, Baba and the Mandali will fast the whole day on Wednesday the 8th. They will take only tea in the morning and break the fast after sunset. Water may be taken. Baba will feed 100 poor on that day with his own hands. Bua Saheb, Bay Ramji, had been in Meher Baba's contact since 1914, when he was tutored by Mirwanji in Persian, and he later became his business partner in a Pune toddy shop. He had stayed with Baba throughout the Manzili Meme In early Meherabad years, Baba made these remarks about him to the Mandali. As one of my nearest and dearest disciples, Bua Sahib unconsciously, when alive, was one with me. And now that he has left the body, he consciously enjoys that blessed union with me. With Bua Sahib's death, the practice of issuing circulars to Meher Baba's disciples and devotees in India and abroad began. Before 1940, Baba's orders and various messages were being conveyed to his lovers through correspondence or typed copies. But after Bua Sahib's death, they were conveyed through printed circulars. And footnote.
In 1949, the circulars mailed throughout India and the world to Baba's devotees became known as the New Life circulars. After the New Life, subsequent circulars were called Life circulars. And those are in the trust library.
Baba and the group left Happy Valley for Meherabad on 3 May 1940. They stopped in Abhinagar first and saw the movie The Wizard of Oz at the Sarosh Cinema. Rustum Kaka, who was the projectionist there, had the chance to receive Baba's darshan after a long time. Sarosh had arranged a special matinee exclusively for Baba and the women so that they could watch the film in private. Baba arrived at Meherabad at noon. Meherabad once again reflected its glorious atmosphere after 10 months of, of Baba's absence. By now, all the musts from Bangalore, the zoo, and the Mandali, Baidu, Erich, Gustaji, Homi, Jangle, Kalimama, Papa Jasawala, Pendu, Sailor, and Vishnu had returned to Meherabad. The men had traveled from Bangalore by train with 25 mad and musts, a gazelle, a peacock, a lamb, a white rabbit, some geese, 5 dogs, 3 monkeys, and pet birds.
Shall we change readers? How are you doing, Eva?
Sure, let's change readers.
Marvin, you want to take it?
Betty, sure. Betty, you want to pick it up then?
I can. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All of them, not to mention the luggage trunks and some furniture, were crammed into 2 special railway cars. As for the other men, Adi Sr., Gani, Naroji, Padri, Masaji, Murli, Chagan and his wife Shanta, and Sidhu, his pregnant wife Radha, and their epileptic child, remained in Bangalore. Swamiji returned to his home in Madras. Don, Nilu, Kaka, Jalbai, and Chanji, off and on, had been with Baba since he left Bangalore. In accordance with the circular, on Wednesday, 8 May, Baba and the whole of both the men and women Mandali at Meherabad and Bangalore fasted, and Baba fed the poor and distributed sweets. The following day, Baba stated, "I want to open 12 centers throughout India before I speak. Of these, 6 have already been established at Meherabad, Nasik, Toka, Madras, Biramangala, and Mandala. For the remaining 6 different places around India are still to be selected. That was one of the objects of my last tour." As soon as Baba set foot in Meherabad, he paid strict attention to and arranged everything in the ashram. He expressed his intention of going into seclusion from the 1st of June for reasons of internal working. This coincided with events in the war. News on the war front in Europe was distressing. On 10th May 1940, vast forces of the German army swept into neutral Belgium, Luxembourg, Holland, and France, and within a month had captured all of those countries. The master's darshan had not been available for a long time, as Baba had been in Bangalore and touring. When his return to Meherabad became known, followers nearby began writing to ask permission to come for his darshan. Baba therefore granted darshan on Wednesday, 15 May, for a day. From Bombay, Chanji brought 35 lovers. Despite the intense heat of summer, Baba met everyone individually. The ladies were taken up the hill for tea with the women mandali, and then all were sent away on the 5 o'clock train. Dr. Deshmukh arrived from Nagpur on the 16th, and Baba allowed him to stay in Meherabad for 2 weeks, after which Deshmukh went on a lecture tour, speaking about Baba at various places in India. Once, in talking with Deshmukh, Baba mentioned his seclusion and the war. I am retiring into seclusion for my work with the world. It is very important. I want to speed up situations and developments in the war. It will be a war of surprises and unexpected changes. It will change the map of the world. Disastrous results and unexpected consequences and developments will bring about a quick turn of events. Destruction is essential for reconstruction. All evil is to be eradicated for good to be established. Almost constantly throughout May, there were daily visits by the various Mandali members and close ones. Adi Sr. with Falu came from Bangalore in mid-May, and Adi Sr. was sent to Bombay and Nasik. Ramju and Manik Ranji came from Nasik. Kali Mama was sent to Kolhapur and then back to Bangalore. Naroji and Murli came from Biramangala for discussions. Chanji returned from Bombay. Sarosh and Rusipap were daily visitors from Ahmednagar, and members of the Satha family were occasional visitors from there. Jalbai and Adi Jr. came from Pune. Dake arrived from Rahuri. Kakobad came from Bombay, and others visited as well. Baba's schedule at this time was as follows. In summer temperatures that reach 110 degrees. He got up at 5 a.m., had private meetings, and then gave instructions to the Mandali. In the morning, he made the rounds of the Must Ashram, which was now situated north of his tomb on Meherabad Hill, in buildings that had formerly housed the maternity hospital and the offices of the Meher Baba Journal. Baba gave baths to the musts from 7 to 8:30 a.m. He then came down to meet the Mandali at Lower Meherabad and stayed in his jopti until noon, meeting outsiders, giving instructions, and so forth. In the afternoon, he was preoccupied with making frequent visits to the Must Ashram and in sitting in seclusion with various musts. He would also visit Mera and the other women, relax, and discuss matters with them. Ever since K.J. Dastur left the ashram in 1931, he publicly distanced himself from Meher Baba and wrote articles against Baba in the press. Nevertheless, privately he would write Baba plaintive letters, even threatening suicide, pleading for money, just one more time. Much to the Mandali's consternation, Baba would usually send him some amount, and Dastur would promise to pay back the money as soon as he was able. But in April 1940, despite Baba's repeated help to him out of his love, Dastur wrote to Baba that unless he was loaned money again, he would be forced to take legal action against Baba, filing a lawsuit and dragging Meher Baba's name into court for breach of promises, made to him by Baba over the years. His latest threat was too much for the Mandali, and Ghani in Bangalore wrote a befitting reply with Baba's full approval. An excerpt is as follows. Who could have imagined that the author of the epithet, His Divine Majesty, could stoop so low as to resort to blackmail? Your desperate story and plight of bankruptcy, indebtedness, and threat of suicide to escape, as well as your frantic appeals to the master for monetary help, invariably accorded in spite of your calling him a cheat and a charlatan. All these factors present to a sincere student of human nature very illuminating studies in man's transcendental heights and bottomless falls. It seems a case of perverse neurosis for specialists like Sigmund Freud and Havelock Ellis. Footnote. Sigmund Freud, 1856 to 1939, was an Austrian psychiatrist who led the field of psychoanalysis. Havelock Ellis, 1859 to 1939, was an influential English physician and psychologist. Baba's magnanimous, still now in the letter from Ghani, Baba's magnanimous gesture of monetary help, given to you frequently in answer to your frantic appeals, as evidenced by your numerous letters, you unfortunately look upon as hush money. But in this you have miserably failed to appraise Baba's true nobility and innate greatness. The whole world has scriptural knowledge of God. Millions desire him, thousands long for him, hundreds die for him, and only a few attain him. The spiritual grace of divine personalities, such as Meher Baba, is to be begged for and induced by service and self-effacement. It surely cannot be attained by flattery or threats. You have no case or claim against Meher Baba, legal or technical. It is the chicken-hearted, unmindful of their own worthiness in the spiritual domain, who deem the promises of saints as legal tender to be cashed on demand, without fulfilling the sine qua non of the situation. That's the end of Ghani's letter. Dastur's actions were all part of Meher Baba's perfect game. Even though Dastur had left Meherabad, by his writing to Baba for money, he was remembering Baba. Such was Baba's work to keep him in his contact for the past 9 years. Upasni Maharaj had repeatedly asked Meher Baba to take over the managing of his ashram in Sakori, and at this time, he again sent a messenger with the same plea. On 17 May 1940, Baba sent Adi Sr. to Maharaj at Sakori with the following message. First, stop all the Hindu rituals and ceremonies at Sakori. Second, the value of Upasni Nagar, his ashram, at Sakori is less than 500,000 rupees. It will be paid to you by Baba in installments. Third, Maharaj is to execute a gift deed, and when the full amount is handed over, he should deliver the deed to Baba. Accordingly, Adi Sr. went to Sakori and gave Upasni Maharaj the message. Adi then returned and related Maharaj's reply to Baba. The next day, Baba again sent Adi to Sakori with this message. 50,000 rupees will be paid in cash to you on 1st August 1940, and if the activities at Upasni Nagar are conducted satisfactorily as judged by Baba, the balance will be paid after 4 months. 2. If Baba fails to pay 450,000 rupees after 4 months, then Baba forfeits the 50,000 rupees already given to Maharaj. 3. If affairs at Upasni Nagar are not to Baba's satisfaction, Upasni Maharaj should return the 50,000 rupees. 4. Baba has agreed to take over the running of Upasni Nagar for 3 reasons. To free Maharaj of the responsibility of conducting the ashram, to bring about unity in all religions by abolishing the Hindu rituals, ceremonies, and customs there, to remove the notoriety associated with Maharaj's name because of his Devadasi marriages linked with and bringing Baba unfavorably into the picture as Maharaj's disciple. Footnote. This Hindu custom of maidens, Dasi, marrying God, Deva, is called Devadasi. Adi went to Sakori and delivered this message, and on his return conveyed Maharaj's reply to Baba. Baba sent Adi back to Bangalore and then had this note sent to Gulmai, who was staying with Maharaj in Sakori during these proceedings. Footnote. Gulmai had stayed at Sakori the previous October, also while Baba was in Bangalore. Okay, so here's the note sent to Gulmai. Baba is happy to know that Maharaj has agreed to all his conditions. For example, to break up the Hindu religious customs and to put a stop to his marrying with young unwed girls. Baba is prepared to pay 500,000 rupees, but he has many running expenses of his different ashrams, and also the expenses of maintaining his devotees and their families. He cannot afford to pay so much in one lump sum just now. He will pay it within 6 months. Baba will assume the responsibility of Upasni Nagar at the time when he pays the amount in full, and he says that he will definitely pay it. All right, that's the end of the note to Gulmai. Thus, the exchange of such peculiar messages and transactions between the two masters would occasionally transpire. It was their divine humor to engage in such play. During the Rahuri Mad Ashram in 1936, Maharaj had sent message after message to Baba to take over his ashram in Sakori. Baba had replied that Maharaj should come and stay in the Rahuri Ashram and end the Hindu religious atmosphere at Sakori once and for all. Let's see. No doubt there was a definite inner purpose behind this exchange, but it is beyond our limited understanding. It might be surmised that inwardly Baba was taking upon himself the responsibility of Upasni Nagar after Maharaj dropped his body. On 18th May, one of Upasni Maharaj's chief disciples, Yeshwant Rao, arrived from Sakori to see Baba. That same day, Dake, Gadikar, and Kak Sahib had also come to meet him, along with Rusi Pop's son, Aspi. That day, Dr. Shivrao came from Bangalore to stay at Meherabad. At first, Baba told him to stay for 1 year, informing him that to receive what he wished for, he must cut all ties to his family and the world and remain fasting and in seclusion. But after a few days, Baba sent him back to Bangalore with Kali Mama. Upasni Maharaj's 70th birthday was celebrated in 1940 at Meherabad by Baba after a lapse of 12 years. Day and night, the Arangam villagers chanted God's name in Viloba's temple in the village for a week prior to Maharaj's birthday. The actual day of the birthday was celebrated with much rejoicing on Thursday, 23rd May. Baba had the Mandali arrange a feast for the neighboring villagers. A few days before, on the 20th, Baba had cryptically remarked, I will die on May 27th. But Baba was feeling fine that day and explained, today, King Leopold of Belgium has surrendered to the German forces. He is a fool. Not only has he lost all his honor by giving in, but he has gotten nothing out of Germany for himself in exchange. The next 2 months will be critical for the Allies. Everyone will say the Allies will lose. In August, the tables will suddenly turn and the Allies will get the advantage, but it will be a close shave. And in August, I may go to Russia via Persia. I think I'll stop at this point and hand it to who wants to read. Marvin?
I can take it. I'll take it from here. Okay. Bahadre arrived in Mehrabad on 29 May and was sent back to Baramgala on 8th June. Homi Batena came to see Baba on 30 May and then returned to Bombay. On the 31st, Erich and his family left for Bangalore, where they lived in the house already rented for them. Footnote.
The other Mandali in Melu and Falu were initially forbidden by Baba to visit the Jesawala's house.
In Bangalore, Erich helped Adi Sr. file and arrange all of Chanji's diaries and correspondence, which Chanji had kept disorganized in trunks. Papa Jasawala was sent to Karwar to look for a suitable site for establishing an ashram for Baba. As announced, Baba entered seclusion in the Must Ashram on the hill at noon on Saturday, June 1st, 1940. From that day on, he was preoccupied solely with the musts. Although Baba had been working with them since returning to Mehrabad, his work now intensified. Baba indicated that his must work during his seclusion receives a push. Rayo Saheb arrived on the first with a friend, but they were not permitted darshan due to Baba's seclusion. They left for Bombay with Sarosh, despite Pendu's advice to Rayo Saheb to remain, as Baba might call him. Soon after they departed, Baba sent for Rayo Saheb, Pendu, and Baidul, indicating that he wished to give Rayo Saheb some important work, but he had already left. Erich had been the manager of the Must Ashram. After Papa returned from Karwar, he was put in charge, while Erich was in Bangalore with the rest of the family. The 5 boys who had been brought from Bangalore, Krishna Venkoba Rao, Raju Kalapa Amdu, were also working in the Must Ashram, along with Gustaji and Savak Kotwal. During his seclusion, Baba's schedule was rising at 5 a.m., tea at 7 a.m., lunch at noon, tea again at 4 p.m., and no dinner. Vishnu would come at 7:30 a.m. and again at 3 p.m. with the mail, at which times Baba would attend to correspondence. Baba's work with the musts would begin as soon as he woke up and continue until late at night. Each day he would spend some time bathing, reclothing, feeding, and shaving the various musts, primarily Shati Baba, Pulwala, Shariat Khan, Muhammad, Ramshish, a must who had been brought from Bangalore, and others, and working with them individually in seclusion. Some photos of Baba feeding the musts. On Monday, 3rd June 1940, Baba remarked, "This 2-month special seclusion is for my special universal work, particularly to speed things up regarding the war. After the stirring up during the seclusion period, usually startling changes will take place. Unusually startling changes will take place in the war situation. One after the other, 32 nations in all will eventually be involved, including Italy and America. Situations will be so grave they will verge on breathlessness. all of a sudden, unexpected developments will take place, which will be the turning points. Those who had the upper hand will be eventually subdued and thrown off, and others who had been strangled and made to suffer in breathless suspense all these months, along with millions of others in the world, will breathe a sigh of relief. Later, the same day, Baba gave the following message. During these 10 days of my seclusion, I shall decide definitely the length of time this war will last and exactly when it will end. Before I speak and before peace reigns, there must be a real world war in which India will be involved 100%, and places under Mohammedan rule, such as Iran, Afghanistan, Turkey, Egypt, and so forth, will also be entrapped in it, while Italy, Russia, and America will play very active parts. If this war prolongs in the above-mentioned manner, I shall speak in August 1941, in which case, for a year, from August 1940 to August 1941, I shall, with certain of my male and female disciples, go to stay on the boundary of Russia and India, or on some island across the ocean. If the war does not prolong, then I shall decide whether to go to the border or somewhere else. My speaking is largely connected with the world war and peace. Peace does not mean truce. A truce does not necessarily have to happen. A truce will not make me speak. Before the end of the war, when peace is just on the point of appearing, I shall speak. I shall speak just before permanent peace. For several weeks, Chari Baba had been telling his attendant, Krishna, that the people of Europe were undergoing terrible suffering. Baba would bathe this great must every day with 150 to 200 buckets of water. The bath of bucket after bucket of water would take hours. Just after his bath, Chati Baba had the odd habit of sitting on the ground and scooping up handful after handful of loose earth and pouring it over his head. Baba even instructed Krishna to keep 15 baskets of earth in Chati's Baba room every day to facilitate this need. It was while he was pouring earth over his head one day that Chati Baba poignantly remarked to Krishna, "There will be much anguish and privation in the world, and many will die of starvation. But Baba will finally assuage the suffering of the world." Yet Chati Baba grew more and more restless. At 1 o'clock on the night of Wednesday, 5 June 1940, he suddenly rushed into Baba's room carrying a lantern and bawling out, "Wake up, wake up." Savak was on night watch and asked him what had happened, and he replied, "Nothing." The next morning, the must cleaned his room himself, which he had never done before. Again, on the afternoon of the 6th, the must enters Baba's room, stood by the door, and said he wished to leave. "I have to go to Mysore," he said. "If not Mysore, then I will go back to my village." Baba asked him, "What problem do you face here?" The must replied, "I don't have any problem here, but I have to go away." So Baba ordered the mandali to take him out of the compound for a walk. He was taken out, but wanted to walk to the women's side. The men tried to lead him away, but he was adamant. Finally, Baba sent a car, and Shati Baba was told he would be taken to his village. Smiling, he got in and was driven instead back to his room. Shati Baba appeared very restless until 8 that evening, and would frequently open and shut his door. On the morning of the 8th, he locked himself in his room and would not come out for his bath. But the most significant incident occurred on Sunday night, 9 June, when the must became suddenly violent, noisily leaving his small room and going directly to Baba's room. There he told Baba, "My house has been utterly destroyed. It is on fire, I have come to you for shelter. Baba at once ordered the Mandali to leave him alone with the must, and both retired into Baba's room and shut the door. The Mandali heard Chadi Baba talking fervently to Baba for a few hours, and then all was quiet. He spent the night alone with Baba in his room. The next morning, 10 June, Baba left his seclusion and explained about the must behavior. Chati Baba has a spiritual connection with France. He was overwrought with despair because of the cataclysm that is occurring in France these days. Baba went to see the women, and at one point he commented, "If Italy joins the war, there will be world war. There will be utter destruction and chaos, just as I want. Then people will feel the hollowness, the emptiness of it all, and turn to God. Since I am in India, India will suffer a great deal also." Later that day, to the surprise of the world, Italy declared war on England and France. The next day, 11th June 1940, when Baba heard the news, he remarked to the women, "Now Turkey has to join, and then everything will go as I planned. So if Turkey joins, cook rawa, a sweet dish, to celebrate." There has never been such a war, and never will be another like it. But when this is over, peace will reign for 400 years. From this mass destruction, I will build life anew and quite different from now, much happier, better. All who die in this war will take form again and enjoy this peace. After discussing 7 possible places they might stay for a year, Meherabad, Burma, Assam, Nepal, Dutch West Indies, or Siam, Thailand, Baba told the women, "Be ready to leave Meherabad in 25 days." Baba's seclusion in the first week of June 1940 directly coincided with an intensification of developments in the Second World War. Belgium was overrun by the German forces and surrendered. The Germans also began invading France, and 300,000 Allied troops were evacuated from Dunkirk. 5 days after Baba entered seclusion, Hitler declared a war of annihilation against all his enemies. Mussolini in Italy declared war, and England, which now stood alone, as America was still neutral, began bombing Libya and Italian East Africa. In retaliation, Malta and Alexandria were bombed by Italy, and the evacuation of children from London began. Paris was captured by the Germans on 14 June, and the Russians occupied Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. Baba was carefully following the tide of events from his seclusion. He had newspaper reports read aloud to him each day, and he would keep an atlas by his side to chart the progress of events. One day, Baba called the 5 Bangalore boys and asked each, "What do you want? What do you want to do in life?" Raju said, "I want to be a farmer." Kalapa replied, "I want to sell cooking oil." Amdu said, "I would like to drive a Tonga." And Koba Rao said, "I want to go into business." Krishna alone replied, "I want you, Baba." Baba looked at him, gesturing, "I will give you, Baba." He then informed Koba, "Wait for some time before you become a businessman." Baba kept Krishna and Venkoba Rao in Meherabad and sent the other 3 boys back home after making arrangements for them according to their wishes. As it turned out, all 3 boys prospered and became wealthy. Baba joked with Krishna, "You have fallen into a ditch. Now you will be in trouble." Baba Jasawala was assigned to escort the musts, Pulwala and Ramshish, back to their villages, and Kalapa, Amdu, and Raju to their homes. Baba's remark to Krishna proved to have a literal meaning a few days later. As mentioned, Baba frequently cleaned the must pan-type toilets. All of the waste material from the iron pans was dumped into a deep soak pit, some distance from their compound. One day it rained heavily, and the pit filled with water. Papa told Krishna to empty the water from the pit with a bucket tied to a rope. While cleaning it, Krishna slipped and fell into the pit. He shouted to Venkobareo, who pulled him out. Baba came by and saw Krishna covered with filth. Why were you cleaning the pit? He asked. Krishna said that Papa had told him to do it. Baba became upset with Papa. Why did you tell him to clean the pit without my permission? He asked. Subsequently, Baba ordered Krishna to bathe 16 times. He handed Krishna 16 small stones with which to count so he would not make a mistake. After doing as Baba instructed, Krishna told Baba that his skin felt very tight. Baba went to the women's room and brought some oil to apply to his body. Baba asked Krishna, did you feel bad while cleaning the pit? He replied, no. Baba spelled out, you yourself are full of unclean matter. Do you realize that? Why do you live in such filth? Don't you feel dirty? Start feeling unclean because of the filth of the desires that cover you from head to toe, and begin to clean them as you have cleaned the pit today. During this period at Meherabad, Baba commented to the women, one day I will take you to the place where creation started. Baba hinted that this spot was at a place in Java. Footnote.
Footnote, in 1934, Baba had explained that the, quote, missing link, unquote, had emerged out of the jungles in Java, Sumatra, and Madhya Pradesh in India.
But as Age noted, Baba's remark could have had another meaning also. To go to the place where creation began might have meant to bring an end to the whole journey in creation. Whatever his meaning, soon after Baba sent Chandji to Bombay to open an office there. When Chandji arrived, Baba sent instructions for him to gather information about Java, Sumatra, Bali, Kashmir, Iran, Australia, and New Zealand. Chandji was told to arrange applications for passports for the Mandali who did not have them. Baba left Meherabad at 2 p.m. on Thursday, 13 June 1940, and boarded a 3:30 p.m. passenger train for an undisclosed destination. All thought he was going to the north, and he did not even inform those who were accompanying him, which were Gustaji, Pendu, Kaka, and Savak, where they were going until they had left Meherabad. Their destination was Calcutta, and they arrived there 2 days later, staying at the Broadway Hotel. All right, maybe we'll have another reader now. Eugene, why don't you pick it up?
In Calcutta, a Tongawala directed Kaka to two advanced souls. Kaka then took Baba to them. One was the great sixth plane Must, whom Baba later named Karim Baba. Baba fed him, gave him cigarettes, and saw him 4 or 5 times before he left. This Must is the spiritual charge man of Calcutta, he revealed to the Mandali.
Baba also stated, you see that?
Thank you. Baba also stated a certain yogi, keeps jumping back.
Yeah. Still doing it.
Really? It's moving for you guys?
Yeah, it's kind of jumping back to small print to big print.
Oh, it's not changing at all here.
It's fine
Certain,
to be here.
so named Kareem Baba. Baba fed him, gave him cigarettes, and saw him 4 or 5 times before he left. This must is the spiritual charge man of Calcutta, he revealed to the Mandali. Baba also stated, a certain yogi in Java has a connection with the one in Calcutta, Karim Baba. And to connect the link, I wish to go there after visiting Calcutta, either now or later. Another contact was a very advanced, half-blind Mastani, seated on a footpath opposite St. Anthony's School.
Saint Anthony.
Baba washed her feet during their first meeting and gave her a new sari and an umbrella. He contacted her again on subsequent days and massaged her feet. After contacting a few musts in Calcutta, Baba went to Ranchi on the 18th. He remained there for a day at the Prince Victor bungalow and arranged for a place to stay so he could bring the women. He then returned by train to Meherabad with Pendu and Kak. Sorry.
Is it jumping around for you, Eugene? Just,
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening because I'm not doing anything.
Oh, wow. So he then returned by train to Meherabad with Pendu and Kaka, leaving Gustaji and Savak and Ranchi with instructions to fast until he returned. Baba arrived back in Meherabad on the morning of the 22nd. Footnote.
Significantly, on the 21st June 1940, an important meeting in Wardha between Gandhi and other Congress Party leaders concluded, and most of the leaders, including Subhas Chandra Bose, boarded the same train as Baba on their way to Bombay. Bose was arrested by the British 10 days later.
Sarosh was to have met Baba at the Ahmednagar railway station that morning, but he was delayed in Pune. Baba and his group had to hire Tongas to go to Meherabad. This disturbed Baba's seclusion, and he was greatly inconvenienced and annoyed to be recognized by people at the station. On 21 June 1940, Baba had dictated the following message. The present world chaos and the universal suffering are absolutely necessary for the eventful and universal spiritual upliftment and for a new world, wherein peace, love, and divine aspirations will reign supreme. None should therefore feel scared and dismayed, bearing in mind the certainty of this bright future. From the spiritual point of reality, the words nation and foreign, killed and killer, war and peace, success and defeat have no meaning, because the world of forms and of duality have no existence and are imaginary dreams. And the present universal chaos is just a universal nightmare necessary for the real universal awakening. Body forms and minds are innumerable and of infinite variety, but souls are all originally and eternally one. In fact, only one infinite reality exists, and that is God. So the present apparent world catastrophe is, by divine will, essential for a divine manifestation in the near future of love and real peace, in which I have to play the greatest part, in which I want my men and women, disciples, to play the corresponding parts of helping me in this work, in this, my work. Those of you who are absolutely willing and prepared to share my present universal burden and to help me in my work have to obey my following order implicitly. Things are happening and will happen as they ought to happen by the divine will. And so, whether war ends now or next year, or whether there is truce now or peace next year, having no thought in mind whatsoever of war or peace, you will have to stay here or go wheresoever I may send you, and do whatsoever I may tell you, at the cost of supreme self-sacrifice. Oops, let's see.
From August 1st, just to finish the sentence, 1940 to July 31st, 1941.
Thanks a lot, Marvin. Could you please continue? Thank you.
Okay, Rosalie, why don't you pick it up here?
Where am I starting?
I definitely will speak.
Okay. I definitely will speak. Oh, mine needs to be bigger. Let's see. I definitely will speak on the 1st of August, 1941. Those of you who are absolutely willing and prepared to share my present universal burden and to help me in my work have to obey my following order implicitly. Things are happening and will happen as they ought to happen by the divine will. And so, whether war ends now or next year, or whether there is truce now or peace next year, having no thought in mind whatsoever of war or peace, you will have to stay here or go wheresoever I may send you, and do whatsoever I may tell you, at the cost of supreme self-sacrifice, from August 1st, 1940 to July 31st, 1941. I definitely will speak on the 1st of August, 1941. It will be the divine word that I shall utter first, which will resume the day.
Resurrect.
Oh, mine says something different. Yeah, I see it. I definitely will speak on the 1st of August, 1941. It will be the divine word that I shall utter first, which will resurrect the dead world. This is my last war, peace, and manifestation message to my disciples. When Baba returned to Meherabad on the 22nd, this message was sent to approximately 240 close lovers, asking them to reply whether or not they were prepared to follow Baba's instructions. The instructions were to be sent later and followed for 1 year. Footnote.
In addition, the message titled Meher Baba's Message for the Future was printed and mailed from Bangalore by Adi Sr. and Erich to prominent Indians across the country. An additional 5,500 copies were ordered for distribution in Mysore state.
At Meherabad, Baba again began working in the Must Ashram on Meherabad
no.
Hill. Excuse me?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No,
He's
go ahead.
right.
Okay. At Meherabad, Baba again began working in the Must Ashram on Meherabad Hill. Chandra was called back from Bombay, and he arrived on Sunday, 23rd June, 1940. He was told to book a third-class compartment to Ranchi for the Mandalay. Accordingly, he reserved 2 bogies, railroad cars, for the journey. Adi Sr. arrived the same day from Bangalore and saw Baba the next day on the hill, and then returned to Bangalore. Don, too, was, quotes, recalled, end quote. And he arrived at Meherabad on the morning of the 26th. Chuggan was wired to come on the 28th with Erich and Swamiji, Paren, who had returned to Bangalore on 13 June, end paren. Ghani was informed he was to remain at Bangalore for another 12 months, running the Meher Baba Journal office. Footnote.
The Mandalay residing in Bangalore, Ghani, Duncan, Chuggan, Datu, had to move out of their quarters at number 4 Palace Road on 12 June 1940 into new ones at number 5 Tannery Road, where they stayed for 6 weeks before having to shift again.
On 29 June, Baba informed the women, from August 1st, 1940, Doomsday will start, excuse me. Doomsday will start for the whole world. Not for one moment will people feel safe in any part of the world for 1 year. All over the world, there will be earthquakes, floods, famine, and new diseases. Those killed in war will be nothing compared to those who will be killed by floods, famine, plague, and so forth. There will be a terrible famine like the one in Persia where millions died in a single year. Half the world will be affected by the famine. People will forget war, victory, and defeat. I remember it was 17 years ago when I was having tea with the Mandalay in the mess quarters. I told them all about this war, when and how it would happen. This war will bring complete destruction. America will not suffer any less. Her backbone will snap. All 240 of the lovers receiving Baba's message of the 21st, responded affirmatively to his call for obedience to his instructions for 1 year. Starting from the 1st of August, on Sunday, 30 June, Baba remarked, in Ranchi, in July, I will instruct individually all the 240 who have signed. It will be the hardest test for those who have signed to obey me implicitly according to their ability, and for some, the supreme test. Now, anyone who says no leaves me for good without arguing. I want also Delia, Will, Mary, and a few others to answer. But how? I too shall suffer a lot physically. It will be hideous suffering. I will literally die physically. How? It will all come naturally as physical suffering. December will be the most important month of my seclusion. Papa Jesawala had been managing the Must Ashram in Erich's absence. On 2nd July, Baba sent Papa to Rangoon, Burma, to find a suitable bungalow there for Baba, the women and men mandali. During this period, Sabak Kotwal's daughters Naju and Hilla were sent to Secunderabad to study in one of the finest girls' schools in the country. The school attended by the children of the Nizam. Baidu's daughter Sarwar was sent with Gaimai to Bangalore, where she attended school. Footnote.
Prior to leaving Bangalore, a house for the Jesawalas had been rented there from May 1940 to March 1941 because of Merwan's schooling.
School fees for the 3 girls and their living expenses were paid by Baba. Meanwhile, Soltun Nergis Kotwal, her infant son Adi, and Nargis's aunt Banubai stayed with the women Mandali. Baba left Mehrabad for Ranchi on Wednesday, 3rd July 1940, by train at 3:30 p.m. with the men and women Mandali and 3 must, Chadi Baba, Shariat Khan, and Mohammed.
All right, thanks, Rosalie. We have time for one more reader.
How about Mona?
Mona, are you able to?
Okay. The women who accompanied Baba were Mehera, Mani, Naja, Khorshid, Sonamasi, Katie, Mansari, Soltun, Dola, Walu, Kakubai, Carmen Masi, Elizabeth, Irene, Kitty, Margaret, Nadine,
Yeah.
Norina, Ranu, Nargis, Banubai, Gulmai's daughters Dolly and Piroja, and several women servants.
Mona, you're kind of breaking up.
The men,
Yeah,
Maybe we should, we're not getting it completely.
it's a little choppy.
Yeah.
Prakash, maybe you can read.
Prakash here? I don't know.
or whoever's on the phone, there's no name, there's a phone number.
Well, that's Marilyn. I don't think she has a, can you see the screen, Marilyn? No, she's on a phone.
All right. Eva,
Well,
how about
can't
you?
hear.
You wanna-
Yes, I'm on the phone. I'm sorry. Not
Okay.
able to
All right.
connect at this point. Thank you.
How about Eva? You want to finish it up for us, Eva?
Sure. The women who accompanied Baba were Mehera, Mani, Naja, Khorshed, Sunamasi, Katie, Mansari, Sultun, Daula, Walu, Kakubai, Carmen Masi, Elizabeth, Irene, Kitty, Margaret, Nadine, Norina, Rano, Nurgiz, Banubai, Gumai's daughters Polly and Piroja, and
Dolly.
several, I'm sorry?
Dolly and Piero.
Oh, Dolly and Piroja, and several women servants. The men with Baba were Baidu, Kaka, Vishnu, Chanji, Nailu, Don, Krishna, and Venkoba Rao. Gustaji and Savak were already in Ranchi fasting. The group reached Manmad at 7:30 p.m., where they had to change trains. Being monsoon season, rain was falling heavily that night. It was a troublesome task to carry all the bulky baggage to the other train. Pandu had accompanied the group up to Manmad and helped them load the luggage into a crowded compartment before returning to Meherbad. In the train going to Ranchi, Baba commented, "Each time I move from some place, something happens. When we left Bangalore, France got in a fix. And now that we have left Meherbad, Britain will be cornered." They reached Chakradharpur on 5 July at 2:45 a.m. and proceeded to Ranchi in 3 buses, reaching there at 8 a.m. When they stepped down from the bus, Chati Baba started walking away. Strenuous efforts were made to coax him back to Koti, their residence, but they were in vain. After efforts to persuade him for hours, he got up but began strolling towards the women's side of the bungalow. With much difficulty, he was stopped. But instead of going to his room, he went to the Mandali's quarters. Baba then moved the men to different quarters. The next day, Kaka divided the room with a bamboo screen so that Baba could work with Chati Baba in seclusion. But the must was restless and would not stay in this room either. The next evening, Don was sent for, and Chati Baba readily let Don lead him by the hand to his room, where Baba sat with him. "You have some deep connection with him," Baba informed Don. At times, Baba worked with Chati Baba several times a day, and sometimes during the night also. As soon as they settled in Golkoti, all had a bath. But the next day, they found that the well in their compound was completely dry. It turned out that the water in it was only rainwater. There was no underground source, and they had exhausted its meager supply in just one day. There were about 40 people with Baba, and inadequate water supply became a problem. They, scroll down, please.
Yes, they managed to.
Okay, thank you. They managed to arrange for cooking and drinking water from a neighboring well.
Eva, I can read now. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
When the subject of food for the men and women in Ranchi was being discussed, Baba very seriously stated, "Consider the pitiable plight and condition of the people in Europe, where war is raging on. Consider especially the refugees who have left their homes and were driven like cattle from place to place to save their lives from the conquering hordes, who were following them like shadows of death. In their condition, even the necessities of life, like food and drink, were considered secondary. They are homeless, without a roof over their over their heads, thrown into open streets of fields, starving, with nothing to cover themselves except what they have on their person. Compared to them, people in India are far better off. In spite of the dreadful news of the war every day and the economic and general trade depression that the war was brought on all, and the consequent financial stringencies all over, people in India can move about at will and leisurely. Even going out for recreation in the open gardens or seashore and entertain themselves by going to the movies or to the music and dance halls. After August of this year, conditions will worsen. Developments in the war will take a serious turn, become complicated, and the flames will spread far and wide until the war will embrace not only the whole of the West, but also the East. Besides, a time will come when people will even forget the war and terrible destruction it has caused in life and property. For there will be further disasters, more voracious in their destructive power, like plagues and pestilences, fire and famine, floods and earthquakes of immense magnitude and force, all of which will take more toll of life and property than machine guns and bombs. Then, too, civil wars will complicate the political situations among nations and make things even more chaotic until it will create a deadlock. Even millionaires will be starving for food. There will be chaos everywhere, and all will be helpless. On Saturday, 6 July 1940, Baba dictated a circular of 31 instructions to be sent to 240 of his lovers in Bombay, Nasik, Ahmednagar, America, and Europe. Attached to the individual copy, Baba selected which instructions each was to follow. Baba signed each slip with the appropriate order numbers listed on it.
Okay, I think we should stop here. It's, I think 1 minute to 12. Let's note the page,
So
2118.
from next week, we'll read from 2118.
We should
Eva, you're
probably
making a
actually,
note of it?
yeah, we should probably actually read the
Yes, I
very
am.
bottom of the page we just read before. Just the
Okay.
last little paragraph.
Okay.
All right, let's stop recording.
Stop I'm sorry, stop recording. How do I do that?
Thank you, everyone.